The Titans lose again, 37-27, falling to the Cincinnati Bengals, and Will Levis regressed massively. Also, the 37-27 score, a lot better looking than the actual game because the Titans get a last-second touchdown that is completely meaningless. We're going to recap what went wrong for Will Levis, the state of this Titans franchise here with just 3 games to go, and more. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another disappointing, depressing episode of the Music City Audible podcast, our 11th time hopping on here, Justin, after a Titans game, only to be sad and distraught over the product we just witnessed on the field. Titans, like I said, lose 37-27, but it was not as close as that. I want to start, Justin, with Will Levis here. We got to talk about this because Will Levis goes 8 for 12 for 89 yards and 3 interceptions, also lost a fumble, and got benched for Mason Rudolph. So let's just start here. Is the Will Levis, is this it? Have we seen enough? Book closed, the 4 weeks of good play, and then last week of average play undone by a disaster day, another disaster day, at least the third, if not fourth or fifth one this year. Where are we at on Will Levis?
Yeah, I don't want to make this, too emotional or reactive, but it's obvious, that he had lost a lot of, if he had any goodwill early on in the year, right? It was very much trending towards this guy absolutely can't be our quarterback going forward. Mixed in a couple good weeks, you started thinking, okay, the evaluation's ongoing, just like the coaching staff has said. But what that means is that it's ongoing, right? And it's like this was a major step backwards, right, in that discussion. So certainly some of the goodwill, I would say, that he picked up over the past 3-4 weeks. And let's be honest, I think we had said it at the time, he was playing good. He wasn't playing lights out. He was playing well, right, in that Minnesota game, the Chargers game, the Houston game. He's playing pretty all right. Certainly a lot of that came undone against the Bengals on Sunday. It was a full-blown disaster. Trades of the Bears, the Jets in week 2, all that stuff. That was just terrible. Coming off a 6-point showing against the worst defense in the NFL, Jacksonville. This was a really, really big step for Will Levis. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no doubt about it at all. He throws in this game. Started with 2 touchdown drives coming off a Joe Burrow interception over the middle. It was a really ill-advised throw by Joe Burrow, uncharacteristic of him. Characteristic of somebody more like Will Levis than like a Joe, something you might expect from Joe Burrow. But Titans go up 14-7. Everything looks good. They're driving down the field, and then Will Levis loses a fumble on a play where he just got it knocked out of his hands trying to scramble forward for some yards on 3rd and 13. And that was the beginning of the disaster moments. Cincinnati scores off that, makes it 14-14. And from there, the Titans turn it over on 2 of their next 3 full on 3 of their next 4 full possessions. There was an end of half kick return that went nowhere, then just ended the first half. But 3 of their next 4 possessions, interception, 3 plays minus 15 yards punt, interception return for a touchdown. And those 3 interceptions came on 4 pass attempts, including back-to-back pass attempts for interceptions. Now, to be fair to Will Levis, there was a play in between those 4 pass attempts that did not count because Peter Skoronski was called for a pretty soft, low block that was definitely within the tackle box, a very bad call. And Levis made a really nice throw on that play down the seam to Chigakonkwo with pressure in his face. But here's where I'm at, Justin, because as good as that throw was, all that throw did for me, instead of being like an encouraging sign that maybe Levis can figure it out and he makes these nice plays, for me it was like, oh, okay, if we were going to excuse the 2 earlier interceptions because maybe he re-aggravated his shoulder injury and he's, not able to throw accurately anymore, he threw
Couldn't roll my eyes any harder.
He threw an incredible ball on that play that didn't count, which ruled out the shoulder injury being an issue for me. And then on his next pass attempt, I think he checked it down to Tony Pollard, and then on his next pass attempt, it was the pick 6, Geno Stone taking it to the house. This game could have been even worse for the Titans. Jackie Battle picks up a fumble and takes it to the house, but fumbles it out of bounds at the 1-yard line, so the Titans get possession back there, but it could have been even worse. And then, I mentioned this already, they score a touchdown as time expires. They don't even kick the extra point because they're down 10 at that point, and the game is over, and that cuts the score to 10, but really the game wasn't that close, and I think the reason the game wasn't close is because of Will Levis's disastrous plays. And that's where we're sort of at with the evaluation. Yeah, he's got 3 games left. We'll see if he even starts next week or if they go back to Rudolph. If he doesn't start, then it's over. The book is closed, and Will Levis will not be the starting quarterback for the Titans next year. As far as I'm concerned, like right now, that's how we have to evaluate it. If he does play the last 3 games, he's got to play the 3 best games of his career, because what happened on the field on Sunday in a game that you know was probably pretty meaningful to Brian Callahan, going up against the team he spent the last 5 years with, to come out and have this performance where Levis is just not seeing the field. The first interception, we can't even tell who he was targeting. Was it to Nick Westbrook-Akina and it was just way off target? Was it to Tyler Boyd and it was just way underthrown? The only player it looked like he was targeting on that play was Cam Taylor-Britt, the Bengals defensive player. On the second interception, it's too high for Nick Westbrook-Akina. Westbrook-Akina does sort of like tap the ball right to the defender, so maybe that one wasn't like an interceptable ball, but it was a terrible pass. It was very off target. And the third...
Bad things happen when you throw off target and inaccurate.
Yes, and then the third one was just a horrible read. Doesn't see Geno Stone lurking over the middle of the field, ready to undercut that route and pick it off. So he's not seeing the field well. He's throwing inaccurately. He made one really good pass in this game that didn't count to Chiga Okonkwo, but I'm done giving him the grace of like, well, he made a good throw here, so maybe he's still like, it's over. The disastrous,
you've committed 4 turnovers.
The disastrous plays very vastly outweigh the one good throw in this game, and even all the encouraging signs we've seen this year. The disastrous plays have been way too plentiful, and therefore, in my evaluation of Will Levis, I'm ready to close the book and just say he is not a starting caliber NFL quarterback. I don't care if he goes on to have a Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, career renaissance Geno Smith in 5 years. Like maybe he will. I'm not ruling that out. But the Titans don't have time to just like wait for him to hopefully be the guy, because if that happens, Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon are getting fired.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you said most of what I wanted to say, but I do think all these turnovers, for the most part, was on him. I want to point out a couple things. The first one, the fumble, that's the one that you maybe absolve him of blame somewhat for, because I was really confused by the play call. It's 3rd and 13. It looked like an option. I don't know if it was a busted play, but it looked like an option, didn't it? Like, you're running the option on 3rd and 13 with your semi-athletic injured quarterback. Like, I just don't get the play call on that one at all. It's not Lamar Jackson. And even then, the Ravens don't run many options on 3rd and 13, right? Not many teams do. You got to throw the football in that situation. So that play call was extremely confusing. He doesn't have to lose a fumble on it, of course, right? He could keep the ball, but he loses a fumble on what was an awful play call by Brian Callahan. The first interception, like you said, I actually think it was probably to Tyler Boyd.
I think.
But it's either, do you agree? Like,
I can tell you who the box score credited the target to. Tyler Boyd.
Cam Taylor-Britt.
Tyler Boyd.
They credited to Tyler Boyd. Okay, it looked like it was probably to Tyler Boyd, but one or two things. People were saying it was going to be intercepted. Maybe I'm too nice. I think it looks so underthrown. It either skips at his feet, or I think it's a PBU near the sideline. Like the defender just gets an easy hand in there and bats it away. Maybe he undercuts it and picks it off. But either way, it's an awful throw and a terrible decision. The one to NWI, I got real frustrated seeing people trying to absolve that one of blame on the timeline as well. Like, oh, Nick Westbrook-Akina bats it down. No, like, it was overcooked, in my opinion, and it was inaccurate. Like, bad things happen when you make those type of throws. And then the final one, finally, the rightful nail in the coffin in this game, just an awful throw and an awful decision. I counted, 3 or 4 Bengals defenders in the middle of the field there. It's late because he refuses to come off the progression. Like, he should have been able to see it's not there. But what does he do? He sees it's not there. He wants it to be there. He waits an extra second and then throws it, right? Like, he's got to come off it. He's got Nick Vannett there in the flat as like his check down. Maybe it's there's a Bengals defender not too far there in the area kind of waiting for the check down, but it's probably not a pick six if he just goes to Vannett on that play, I'm thinking. But no, the decision, it was horrid. I mean, it's pick and catch, right, for Geno Stone in that situation. So 4 horrid turnovers, 3 of them in the first half. And the one drive in between there that wasn't a turnover, by the way, he takes a sack where he holds on to the ball for about 4 seconds, right? Like, the ball's got to come out, as we know. So just a horrid showing. Don't absolve him of blame. There's no excuses for it. It was terrible, and he deserved to be benched.
The Titans did outgain the Bengals 374 yards to 370 in this game, which I think just speaks to more of the turnover like the return yards from those turnovers prevented Bengals offense from racking up more yards than I think they probably would have. So again, this is like the 10th game of the season where the box score defensively has been misleading because either special teams or turnovers has created short fields for the opposing team. Like the Lions game stands out as the prime example of that. But this was another one where like you look at the stats and you're like, well, the defense held them to 370 yards. Yeah, they did because of how bad the offense was in this game. In other games, it's been because of how bad the special teams was. And again, the Titans in this game, 12 penalties for 110 yards for the most penalized team in football. It's like they're not showing strides in any area. Okay, special teams didn't have a disaster play today, so maybe they're showing strides in that area. But I think you said it on our preview show this week that like they patch one leak and two more spring open. It's like they fix one thing and other things are seemingly like compromised because of so much emphasis on fixing one area. So it's just like, I mean, we've talked a little bit about it. Like, is Brian Callahan going to get another season? Maybe just because of how bad his quarterback has been. He'll get another season because of the financial implications of firing him. He'll get another season. But does he deserve another season? Are we confident in any way that Brian Callahan can pick a new quarterback and be right about it and ran Carthon in that decision too? Like, that's the next step for the Titans as we head into the last 3 weeks of completely meaningless football and look ahead to the offseason is the Titans have to get a new quarterback. That's where we're at. It sucks. It sucks to be in that spot as a franchise in the roster building cycle, but that is where the Titans are at. How much do you trust Callahan and Carthon to make that decision, Justin?
Well, it sucks to be in that spot, especially only, because you don't have a straightforward answer. It doesn't suck to be in that spot if you're 2-15 and Joe Burrow's coming out of college. Right? Like, that's not a bad spot to be in. It's a bad spot to be in because this is a lackluster quarterback class. And of course it is, because that's what happens to the Tennessee Titans. How much do I trust them? I mean, not much. Why would we trust them, right? Like, this regime right now, there's just no real reason to have confidence in it, right? Like, they're 3-11. And we seem to absolve them of a lot of things. I mean, you said it. They are getting worse as the year goes on. They're a bad football team. They're a very poorly coached team. And the GM picked the coach, right? And a coach who believed in Will Levis, coming in thinking he could fix him, and he obviously can't. I guess it boils down to the baseline, for me, the baseline belief that why would I have any faith in this current regime to really make good decisions until I see them do it? Like, I know they inherited a bad situation, but they've made it worse, haven't they? Like, this is the worst Tennessee Titans football team we've seen in a very long time, right? And a lot of that has to do with the decisions they made, right? Like, they made some good ones, some okay ones too. Tavondre Sweat, J.C. Latham, I like those picks. I like some of the things they did in free agency, but right now, and some of it maybe is, good process, bad results. Like, it depends where you land on L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
But that's looking like a really bad decision right now. And there's no guarantee that it's going to get better. It might be really bad, all said and done.
Yeah.
You look at them not being able to fix right tackle. You look at the inexperience the head coaches show, not being able to fix special teams. I mean, this team's a disaster every week in some area, right? And I just can't sit here and say we should believe in them, everything's going to be fine. No, we need reason to believe in them, reasons that they're not currently providing. And look, I get the guy's been around a lot of good quarterbacks in the past, and he knows what good quarterback play looks like. I have no doubt about that. Do you want me to list off failed coaches that have been around good quarterbacks in the past? And then, I mean, Adam Gase, that guy was around a ton of good quarterback play before he was a disastrous head coach. Like, that's not a prerequisite to you being a head coach, and it's not a prerequisite to you making a good decision at quarterback, right? Like, they've made a lot of bad decisions at made a lot of bad decisions, period, this offseason. That's why they've got a bad football team. And secondly, like, again, I wouldn't sit here saying this if Joe Burrow was coming in, because an idiot could walk backwards into Joe Burrow, right? Like, or Andrew Luck when it was Ryan Grigson, right? No, they're going to have to really make a difficult evaluation here, and it's not an easy one.
And not only that, is there no surefire quarterback? Not that there's ever a surefire, but as close as it gets.
That's what I just said, right?
But not only is that the case, the Titans are not going to be picking, even if there was one, the Titans won too many games to be picking high enough to get that guy. So they, like you said, they're going to have to be sitting, towards the bottom half of the top 10, most likely at this point. and make a choice on one of these quarterbacks, or decide not to draft one of these quarterbacks, which will probably end up looking good in hindsight because none of these quarterbacks appear to be a franchise guy, the answer. Or so are they going to make a free agency decision? Are they going to overpay for a guy like Sam Darnold and hope that they can coach him as well as Kevin O'Connell, who is a masterful offensive coach? Can they coach him as well as Sam Darnold, who plays, behind a pretty good offensive line, even though they lost Christian Darrisaw, who has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and a plethora of weapons out there? Like, is he going to translate to the Titans offense if that is the route they decide to go? Do they go with like a bridge guy that they know is not going to be great, but that might be serviceable, like Justin Fields? Or do they go dip into the draft again and pick another quarterback and hope that they can get him to be a franchise guy? Like, it's a pretty bad place to be. I think the best route for the Titans, honestly, is to just stick it out with Callahan. It's almost like the Will Levis conundrum you entered this season with. You give Callahan another season to find out if he's the guy. And if he's not, you're picking very high in the 2026 draft, which is going to be ripe with quarterbacks. And hopefully, and maybe Callahan is not even the head coach then. Or you stick with Callahan for another year and he figures it out, and you at least have a good offensive-minded head coach to, attach your roster and your team to for the next however many years. So I almost think like 2025 is going to be another season like 2024 of just like getting answers about a key person in the organization, and then hopefully setting you up for success in 2026 and beyond. It's a really grim place to be as a Titans fan.
It's a grim outlook for this organization right now. It really is, because there's real, outside of walking ass backwards into a quarterback this offseason, which could happen. I think the likelier scenario, and it's a terrible thing to say in December here of 2024, but the likelier scenario is they're equally as bad, I think, next season, and equally as boring and disastrous, and hit reset again, right? So it's not a good place to be right now. Yeah,
not at all. All right, Justin, let's switch away from the negativity. If anyone is still watching this podcast, we appreciate you. Let's hit some positivity. Time for I'll Drink to That, presented by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. And what I'm drinking to today, Justin, I think we're each going to have something positive to drink to, two different things. So hopefully that, alleviates some of the, nasty feelings people have about this team. But how about T'Vondre Sweat? I know he didn't finish the game because of a shoulder injury, which is, bad and sad and whatever. But man, Harold Landry rips the ball out of Joe Burrow's arms as he's going to the ground. T'Vondre Sweat picks it up. This is early in the game when we thought the Titans still had a chance. T'Vondre Sweat picks it up and starts rumbling, stiff arms the shit out of Alex Kappa, puts him on his ass after shaking a tackler right before that, and rumbles for 30 yards. It's the longest fumble recovery return by a player who is 330 pounds or heavier since at least 2000, as far back as the True Media data goes. Shout out to James Foster, who tweeted that out. The longest fumble return by a player that heavy, maybe ever, but definitely since at least 2000. And he was a force on the inside too. But man, just watching him pick up that ball and rumble down the field like a giant version of Derrick Henry made me think this guy needs some snaps in the backfield. This guy needs some goal line carries. And let's see if he can make some magic happen on offense, because the way he shook those tacklers was like, holy shit, T'Vondre.
Yeah, stop putting Jeffrey Simmons in on the goal line.
Yeah.
Let's put T'Vondre Sweat out there and give him the football.
Right.
It was my favorite play of the Titans season. It was hilarious. I couldn't get enough of it. The stiff arm absolutely sent my soul out of my body. I freaked out when that happened. At 33, I can't wait to hear his soundbite, what he's got to say about it after the game. What I'm going to drink to, because I'll give you that one, is a couple of young playmakers having their best games of the season. Chigakonkwo looked phenomenal in this game. 8 catches, 59 yards. Thought he just played good quality football. Looked like rookie season Chig, didn't he? After the catch, tough to tackle in the open field, creating opportunities for himself. He was really good. And so was Tajay Spears. I think what was supposed to be a big year for Tajay hasn't quite played out that way, right? He's been second fiddle to Tony Pollard. He's been battling recurring injuries. He was quite good in this game. I got the numbers in front of me here. 4 carries for 5 yards and a touchdown. Where he did more of his damage, of course, was 6 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. So 2 touchdowns for Tajay on the day, nearly 100 total yards of offense. And again, he looked like rookie season Tajay. Showed a lot of wiggle in the open field, created opportunities for himself after the catch, yards that weren't necessarily there. The hidden yards, if you will, one of us 2 words you always love to say, the hidden yards. Tajay Spears was picking up really good days for Tajay and Chig. I mean, good. And Chig, by the way, not all of that was garbage. I thought he looked really good early on in the game when it was still close. So hats off to both of those guys.
Absolutely. And one last thing I'll drink to. Mason Rudolph won this game 13-6.
He was 21 of 26, I think.
Yeah.
2 touchdowns, 210 yards.
Yeah, and a lot of that was late garbage time when Cincinnati was running a shell defense to let the Titans pick up yards and run clock out. But hey, from the time that he stepped into the game to the end of the regulation, Titans won 13-6 because...
And he didn't turn it over 4 times.
He did turn it over one time, and he was also fairly responsible for the fumble that was returned for almost a touchdown and then fumbled out the back of the end zone because it was a bad exchange with the... Was it Pollard or Spear? I can't even remember who it was. All right, Justin.
It was Pollard.
It was Pollard. All right. Final thoughts.
Can I make 3 quick notes before we get out of here? Because I think that's what you're transitioning to. 3 things I want to say that I think it'll be a worthy addition to this podcast. If you're Brian Callahan, I think your biggest beef with Will Levis today, if you will, is that he wasted a 3 turnover effort. I think that's going to, or more.
4.
I don't know how many, but that's going to get 4. Does that include the end zone fumble one though? I think. Yeah. So I'm not counting that one. My point is, you get an interception from Luke Gifford, you get an interception from Darryl Worley, and you get that Tavondre Sweat incredible fumble. You create turnovers in your own red zone, in their own opposite end of the field. Like, it's the lack of complementary football that'll probably bother him the most, right? Like what Will Levis did was ruin 3 turnovers from the defense. Like this is a different ballgame. They essentially scored points on the 3 interceptions Levis I don't know if it was all 3 or they scored 21, 28 points on the Will Levis turnovers. Their pick 6. The first 2 turnovers resulted in touchdowns. It's just that second interception. I don't remember if it resulted. I think it resulted in a field goal.
Yep.
Field goal. So 24 points off Will Levis turnovers. I mean, that is insane, right? Like, that's not something you could live with. That's what's going to bother Brian Callahan a lot. That won't get mentioned enough by the media. It's that not only did he play bad, it's he wasted what was initially a pretty damn good effort from the defense, littered with turnovers. We've complained all year. They haven't forced enough turnovers. They forced 3 of them, and then you give them all back through your quarterback. It just can't happen. Speaking of complimentary football, on the 3rd and 7 that ends up at an interception by Levis, you were in 3rd and 2, right? And you get a J.C. Latham false start. That just can't happen. Unfavorable down in distance. It turns a favorable situation into an unfavorable one. Pick 6 probably doesn't happen if you're in 3rd and 2, right? It's all about complimentary football. I just wanted to note a couple of those things before we get out of here because I thought those were big time. Oh, and the last, I knew I had a third thing. I'm getting old.
Hit it.
We talked last week a lot about the goal line sequence. Well, how about this time they put Jeffrey Simmons in the game and they were really committed to the run early on. That wasn't for all the bells and whistles. That was to get Tony Pollard his carries and to have Jeffrey Simmons as a good lead blocker. And it won't matter. It doesn't matter. But I thought Callahan showed a little bit of growth in that area where they really stayed committed to the run in those situations when they went too pass heavy last week.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a good point. I'm glad you mentioned it. The Titans went 4 for 4 in the red zone today. That's huge improvement. Too bad it didn't matter because all the turnovers, yet again, how many times have we said it this year? The turnovers absolutely put a cap on their ability to win this game. All right. Thanks to everyone. I guess that was the end of I'll Drink to That. So I should say I'll Drink to That, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. If you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In Crowd. In Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Plus, Sinkers Beverages is on Uber Eats, so go on, load up your Uber Eats app, type in Sinkers Beverages, find your favorite alcoholic drink, order it to your house, assuming you're 21 or over, and drown your sorrows after another Titans loss in a terrible Titans season. All right, thanks to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below, any kind of comment you want. How in or out are you on Levis, Callahan, Carthon? Let us know. Air out your thoughts and feelings. Vent it all out. in the comments below. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. We will be back again this week with a very special guest joining us this week, a big time guest that I'm very excited about. The number one thing I wanted to talk about with him was Will Levis, and it now feels like we have our answer on Will Levis. But you know what?
Well, I think it gets more interesting.
I think it does.
Conversation with him.
I think you're right.
Hear what he has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So no spoilers on who that is, but that's a tease for you guys out there. And we'll be back midweek. Until then, y'all stay safe out there. And I got to hit it this week.
Tighten down.
A Broadway sports media production.